Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Engartner, and I'm the new Sustainability Mobility Officer for the City of Youngstown, Ohio. So in this presentation, I'm going to present to you a few recommendations and goals that I've developed that the city must strive for that can assist in reviving the city or at least stabilizing it over the next 10 years. So prior to this meeting, you're required to read my first two documents discussing the community challenges and goals it must strive to achieve, and I'll briefly recap those now. Uh, so to briefly summarize the community goals document, I talked a bit about Youngstown's history and demographics. I don't think I need to get into too much of that right now, as we are all aware of the tough times this region has been through economically and socially over the past half century. As a result of this, we've embraced a smart shrinkage strategy in the Youngstown 2010 plan, and through this, the local economy has changed in several ways, such as the reemergence of downtown as a destination, and the growth of Youngstown State University, as well as growth of several industrial firms such as America Makes and the promise of Lordstown Motors. And outside of downtown, the city, notably the Youngstown Neighborhood Development Corporation, is taking care of some of its longstanding social ills, such as tearing down dilapidated blighted homes and flipping salvageable older homes. So in my document about the key challenges that Youngstown is dealing with, I narrowed it down to three primary topics that I think need to be addressed for the rest of the decade from a transportation perspective. First of which is keeping in mind that being able to deal with social equity in any kind of recommendations we create is priority number one. Being able to increase property values and create changes that may result in further investment in the area is where true change will occur. Another aspect is urban form. Just about everything in town is oriented toward a car-centric culture, which is not the best and most cost-effective way, uh, way to get around for many commutes. So creating conditions that allow for more walkable, bikeable environments and more interesting neighborhoods will be ideal in long-term community success. And conditions like the one you see in that picture, I think, address both of those last two concerns uh, in a precise manner. It's not attractive or safe for anyone to traverse this area in anything but an automobile, let alone live on that street. And these conditions just simply must change. And then lastly, being able to address active transportation as well through all these other changes. Creating necessary facilities needed to allow for bikes, walking, and the WRTA bus network to thrive. They'll allow people to not have to rely on the car for transportation as much and create more options in a more healthy, less congested environment overall. So first of my recommendations to the city is I think we need to implement complete streets throughout the downtown area at least. The city recently had GPD create some renderings as to what this might look like, and these look incredible in my opinion. These streets allow pedestrian transit and bicycling to thrive, while also bringing awareness to them as options for the community to utilize if they chose to forego their car. The reinvestments into these streets will create more value to the city and incentivize developers to want to fix up or create new buildings in the downtown area through the increased property values that the new infrastructure is likely to create. Another aspect of downtown transportation that is currently being addressed partially but needs to go a step further, in my opinion, is connection between downtown and Mill Creek Park. The park is the region's most prominent natural resource and recreation area. But yet access to it from downtown is limited to using a car to drive to a parking lot in the park or vice versa to utilize it from there. You could walk there. Um, it's currently not ideal circumstances though. Um, it's a very light industrial area full of uses that aren't attractive to the average pedestrian. There's a couple churches, but that's about it. So to mitigate this, construction of a bike lane with barrier to bring the 4-lane wide Mahoning Avenue to 3 lanes of car traffic is currently underway, which is a great first step. But being able to make this like 3/4 of a mile ride interesting to people is another task that must be done. I actually did a project on this about a year ago, and Mahoning Commons, this neighborhood is highlighted in yellow on that map. Um, And the street itself is the western feeder street into downtown. So it is highly trafficked, but there's hardly anything for someone to do if they were to park in the area for the average person to do. So, and there's no permanent residence either. Being able to create a mixed use community out of this with third places and restaurants and office and residences will create a vibrant community and an attractive place that people want to walk or bike through to get to traverse between Mill Creek Park and the downtown. Sort of in the same vein as the last few suggestions is the construction of more bike infrastructure throughout the city and not just downtown. So from the southwest part of the city, Mill Creek Park does an excellent job with this. But as to other areas, there is little to no bike facilities to be found at all. So this can be done a few ways, one of which is through the use of road dieting that utilize lanes of broader streets in order to create a trail out of them. Ideally, this could be done, this should be physically separated from the traffic, like the Mahoning Commons bike path uh, is currently being constructed is. Uh, but a non-barrier bike path is better than nothing, like the one pictured in that photograph. And then downtown portions of Wick Avenue can be used as precedent for that. In less dense areas, we can use the lack of density to develop a completely isolated trail, uh, recreation trail, through some of these less dense, now vacant neighborhoods. This would elevate the property values of these neighborhoods to one day be revived and create healthy, prosperous places again someday with the increased property values and create a pedestrian highway of sorts all in the process. And on the immediate horizon is the arrival of the Smart 2 autonomous shuttle network on downtown's Fifth Avenue. We're expected to launch later this year or next year. And we just have to be able to monitor the success of it to and be ready in case this is a highly demanded service to expand it potentially to other places, uh, possibly Wick Avenue or Belmont Avenue. And if Youngstown is successful at even doing this, it could be a proven ground of sorts where similar new technologies can be tested out and larger cities can implement them based off the success in Youngstown. And then just to briefly touch on being able to upgrade pedestrian facilities, I think this image encapsulates a lot of that very perfectly. Some sidewalks just end in the middle of a block. Some sidewalks may have been eroded or have overgrowth and they aren't usable at all anymore. There may be a few crosswalks, such as in this picture. No walk. There are some walk in, no walk signs, especially in downtown area. But being able to create more of these and have consistent intersections for pedestrians to utilize will create ideal circumstances for them. Mixed use communities as well. As I discussed in regards to Mahoning Commons neighborhood, there needs to be an emphasis on creating these going forward. They'll create more walkable neighborhoods since there's more compacted and there are more destinations and a comfortable walking radius for people to reach a place of work or a third place or a grocery store perhaps in a timely manner. This image I think encapsulates the two sides of Youngstown pretty perfectly. They're dense neighborhoods, but then a few blocks over there may be a whole block with a house or two on it. And with the amount of land available, it may be enticing to create suburban style single family homes, but this will only lead to further fragmentation of the city and auto-centric culture, which there is already plenty of in the city and surrounding areas. These types of places must be redeveloped. Not only that, but the lower income residents who currently live in the city will likely be priced out of their current homes if single family suburban style uh, were to be the case, which will not be ideal for a well-balanced and fair economy and raises ethical issues on the process. Not ideal. And one organization doing incredible things to make conditions like the one I just described a reality in regard to mixed-use community and dense development is YNDC. They acquire properties from land bank, flip them, put them back on the open market at affordable prices. So being able to possibly subsidize them. Um, any way we can help them out to increase their reach, broaden them, uh, aligns with our goals and theirs. I think it's a win-win for everybody and the residents of Youngstown and anyone looking to move here potentially. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the Mahoney River. And currently, Eastgate is exploring development along the river after all of the region's dams along in the river are demolished. These are recreation trails and possible restaurants or residential development. Being able to create infill development, especially in the downtown Youngstown area, to bridge that gap, that physical gap between the two of them, uh, I think is a circumstance that is needed in order to create more interesting walks between the two areas so they're not completely separate entities. So in conclusion, while this list of recommendations will not suddenly bring Youngstown back to its glory days, they will create considerable improvements that could allow for larger economic and social conditions to flourish down the line in the transportation realm. So thanks for listening, and let's get to work.